Hello everyone, welcome back to just another F1 podcast here on the Apex Motorsport. My name is Richard Smyth and this is also day 8 of the Apex Advent Calendar. We've just had the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, the penultimate race of the 2021 Formula 1 World Championship. And here today to discuss it all with me is of course Ryan Caldwell. Ryan, thank you for coming back onto the podcast, and we know what such a big race is coming up this weekend. But just go back to Saudi Arabia and give me a 3-word race review.
What the expletive?
It was a crazy weekend, crazy race, so many red flags, so much to talk about, and we're going to get straight into this now by talking about probably the most controversial moment of the entire race, and that was Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton having, well, they collided. Verstappen,
a little tussle.
Yes, Verstappen appeared to brake check Hamilton. Hamilton went into the back of Verstappen while Verstappen was trying to hand the place back to Hamilton because there was a couple of restarts. Verstappen overtook Hamilton off track. Yeah, it was crazy. The Stewarts had a lot to deal with, or it didn't even go to the Stewarts that much. Michael Massey had a lot on his plate, but what do you make of just the whole Hamilton Verstappen battle? Just break it down and just your thoughts on that.
The whole battle across the weekend it seemed to be Mercedes were on the front foot throughout all the sessions. I felt they were going to have quite an easy race handed to them on a dinner plate, to say. But no, Red Bull then switched it up and came alive and had a really good chance. Max, as we know, nearly and probably would have taken pole position had he not have bended into the wall. But I think throughout the race, we've seen real tenseness between the two drivers when they're either wheel to wheel or in each other's DRS zones, or the whole race itself was crazy. But them battling it out, because the championship is now on the line. It literally comes down to this last race, which we didn't think it was going to go that way at the start of the season. We thought, it might end up being finished up before, Saudi Arabia or even Brazil. But no, it has gone down to the last race. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But as for that collision, I do feel partly, yes, it was on fault of Mercedes for not getting the radio broadcast across as soon as they found out, which obviously it does take a bit of time to transmit because the driver is quite far across the track by the time they're finding out. So it is hard to know what exactly happened and whether the rumours around what Max may have done are true. Then I guess you could say there's a bit of blame on Max in the sense of slightly dangerous driving. It's hard to judge how I feel about the situation, because at the same time, I don't exactly want Lewis to win the championship. He's had 7, pretty much handed to him very easily. Mercedes have had 7 constructors championships handed to them very easily. Yes, they have obviously worked hard for it, but I'd like to see something else happen for once.
If we go back to qualifying, you obviously mentioned the incident where Verstappen ended up in the wall. That, up until that point, I'm seeing a lot of people saying that is one of definitely Verstappen's best ever laps, if not one of the best qualifying laps in Formula 1. Obviously, he didn't complete the actual lap, so we can't really say it was the best ever lap. But do you think up until that point, and if he didn't put in the wall in the final corner, that would have easily been a championship winning worthy qualifying performance?
100%. If you look at how close he was to every corner, he was always on the racing line. He was always hitting the apex at the right point. He was literally at the wall nearly every single corner, getting the most out of his car. And to drive that fast around that circuit, it was quite an exceptional drive. Even Lewis, if you put them side by side, Lewis's drive in qualifying didn't look as fast or as not dangerous, but as on the edge as what Max did with his Red Bull. It was quite amazing to watch it. Obviously, if he had finished that lap, it would have been a lot better for comparison. But up until that point, Max essentially had pole position secured.
If we move on to the race itself now, it was one of the craziest races of all time. We had 3 different pole sitters for 3 different grid starts. There was 2 red flags after debris was thrown across the track, 4 virtual safety car periods, and Hamilton Verstappen went wheel to wheel the first corner on 3 occasions, and twice Verstappen was ordered to hand back the position to Hamilton. If you said that to anyone, they would think it's a plot line of a crazy movie with chase scenes and everything in it, with all the makings of a fantastic movie. And what we got was the fastest race in the sport, based on the speeds are carrying around that track. Didn't feel like the longest race, but it was one of the longest races of the seasons, and it was just chaotic throughout. Ryan, can you remember a race, if we ignore Belgium this year, that was 4 hours of sitting around doing nothing, a more chaotic stop-starty race?
A more chaotic stop-start race? Not really, apart from the first race. It wasn't the start of this season, was it? Or was it last season? I can't remember. It was the first race, and there was I think there was nearly 10 cars didn't finish. I can't mind what it was. It was just engine breakdowns and everything going wrong. Or was it after the restart? I can't remember. But it was a race this season or last season, I think. I think it was last season when we first came back after the whole the world situation, we keep calling it instead of naming what it actually is. Just keep ourselves right. But I think it was like the first race back after that, or the first race back. Everything just went awful. Cars weren't finishing, safety cars everywhere. It was a bit like that. But obviously, if I was to take a meme version of it, I would say Germany. I think was it Germany 2019
yes, 2019, yeah.
Yeah, that one. That was quite interesting as well.
Yeah, it was very, very chaotic. But Ryan, do you think that this title fight now, we're going into the final race of the season, Abu Dhabi, with 0 points between Hamilton and Verstappen. Verstappen will win if both cars don't finish based on the amount of wins he's had this season. I think it's 9 race wins compared to Hamilton's 8. So there's only 1 race won in it. But do you think it's getting a little bit too ugly, and it may ruin what is shaping up to be one of the best ever ends to the Formula 1 season?
Yeah, it's going to be really tense. Qualifying's probably going to be the most close-knit, pin-perfect thing we're ever going to see in the last 6-7 years of Formula 1. This is 2 drivers who have 2 good cars behind them, who can both extract the most out of out of their own car. Obviously, if they run each other's car, that'd be quite funny to watch, actually. But it's gonna be a real tense and exciting spectacle to watch, because you've got Max, who has had I think it's 3 or 4 seasons now in Formula 1.
It's 7.
Is it 7?
Yes, that's the crazy thing that I struggled to get my head around.
Hold on. So you're saying Max has been in here for the same amount of World Championships Lewis has won?
Yeah, I think it's 7. I'll just double check it. It's maybe it's 2016 he joined, maybe it's 5.
I thought it was 2016 with Daniel Ricciardo, was it not?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I was thinking.
I keep saying 7.
Is it 7?
No. 2014 he joined as a reserve, and then 2015 he made his debut.
And he won his first race, that's right. That's insane. Oh, yeah, because he had that full season with Daniel, and Daniel left in 20... Ah, yes.
Yeah, so this is the 7th season.
Damn. Time has went by.
Yeah.
I suppose that's like Lando's and all them guys, like 3rd season.
Yeah, but Verstappen's only 24, so he's got at least another 10 years racing.
Yeah, he's like the 2nd youngest ever Formula 1 winner.
He will be forever with the new rules in place.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually gonna be... That's interesting. Nice. Ah, damn. What were we talking about again? I can't
about
mind what I
about
was.
the championship battle, but
Yeah, got a bit
but
sidetracked, but no, that
yeah,
was
but if we
yeah.
keep on the Verstappen topic, Ryan, do you think he crossed the line this weekend? Because I've seen throughout the season, I said when Verstappen wins a race, he usually wins it quite well, and he's always drove a good race. And yes, there has been times where there's been a few controversial incidents, and it's split fan bases, and people are defending him, people are against him, and but I've always thought that if he wins this championship, it shows the work that he and Red Bull have put in. And yes, Red Bull aren't coming across as the nicest team, and they look like they're sore losers at times. But Verstappen would have deserved this championship based on his pure racing ability alone, because he's won. He's had to get in this car and win these races by himself. He's the only person in that car. Red Bull have given him a good package to do that. But after watching what he done in Saudi Arabia and Brazil, he's a very aggressive driver, and I think he overstepped the mark in terms of what should be allowed. I can get Brazil for pushing the driver off just a little bit, just when you're racing, but not go eight car whiffs away from the apex. But the way I seen the incident in Saudi Arabia where he appeared to brake check Hamilton was he was trying to do something that he was ordered to do, which was to swap the cars around, but he done it in the wrong place. And I think it should have been a longer period before. It should have been done in the main straight, not that wherever he did do it, where he just dived down the inside straight away again. I think he overstepped the line. Do you agree with that, Ryan, or do you think that it was completely fair racing from Verstappen's point of view?
I understand what he did, and I understand he did what he did because of. Hold on, I'm trying to spring this without making it confusing. I understand why he did what he did, because what he did would have given him an advantage. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
He was trying to get Lewis past him before the DRS activation,
Yeah.
so he could be within a second and possibly go back at him again on the straight, which is actually quite a smart play if you ask me, but obviously things didn't go to plan. I think what happened was, if he was braking, he was really trying to get Lewis as close to him as possible to allow him to get past just before that zone, because he knew if he had kept driving, letting off at a reasonable speed, he would have got through the detection point, and at that point then he wouldn't have had that advantage. So I think he was trying to slow down just enough, but then they said it was 2.4 Gs of deceleration, which doesn't come from lifting off. That's roughly only about maybe 0.5, 0.6 maybe of a G, depending on how strong the recovery system's working, which would be quite high at that point. There's no real argument for him if the 2.4 Gs of deceleration with use of the brake pedal to slow himself down, with Lewis Hamilton coming right up behind him. There's no excuse that is that is essentially dangerous sportsmanship and driving on track, and could have, if things had have went really bad, had Lewis not have managed to slow down just enough behind him before he hit him, things could have got real ugly. We could have seen an engine fire or anything. But no, I do think it's tense. He was just trying to play a smart move that went wrong, and if Mercedes had have got that message across even 3 or 4 seconds quicker, Max is letting you past, and then be done with it, Lewis would have been able to see that. But obviously it just took just a bit too long. Red Bull was able to get the message to Verstappen, and within that amount of time, Mercedes should have been on the ball and had that straight over. Obviously then there's, what about Michael Massey? You should check out the video, by the way. What about Michael Massey? Did he not relay the message to Mercedes quick enough from talking to Red Bull, or should Mercedes have been informed first? that's another factor. But I do think, it's dangerous driving, but at the same time, he's going to try every trick in the book. Look at Hunt and Lauda. Them two were against each other's throats for many of years, trying to win championships against each other. So it's something a wee bit like that. But, what are you going to do? It's Max. He's aggressive. We know he's aggressive. Lewis, he's essentially a Formula 1 veteran at this point. They're two of the biggest stars in Formula 1 in the last 10 years, guaranteed. It's just amazing to see, and it's going to be tense.
Yeah. We'll move on to a little bit about Michael Masi now, and he was playing a game of Deal or No Deal at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. He offered Red Bull the choice between keeping the box that they had, which was to go with the stewards as it was, or he offered them the swap boxes, which would have been to swap places with Hamilton to drop Verstappen down to third place. They decided to swap boxes for Verstappen to drop to P3, Hamilton P2, which meant Esteban Ocon was leading the Grand Prix, which was great to see for him. But Ryan, do you think Michael Masi should be allowed to offer teams to swap positions, or should it be his decision and his decision only, whatever he feels like, or the race stewards, up to them? Not, do you want to start 5th in the grid? We can offer you 7th, 8th in the grid, or we can offer you 4th. You choose whichever position you want to start.
That sounds like a really good plan. Only flaw is, what if you accidentally offer the team the wrong deal and they accept it, and then you realise, I just give a team a two-place grid jump just by complete accident. Which, it wouldn't be the worst thing to see if, in a restart, if there was an issue that you did have to take. So say maybe you had a 5-second time penalty. Instead, if there was a red flag on a restart, instead of trying to serve them 5 seconds again at the end or getting them added on, maybe just take a 2-place penalty, grid penalty at the restart, or even 3 places, and just gain them back again. Because 5 seconds at the end of the race could be the difference between you finishing in, say, 3rd and having 3 cars behind you all within a second, and you finishing, 3, 4, 5, 7th. It would be interesting to see how that would work too. But it was weird because I think that's it's not. Is it the first time we've probably ever had such a deal?
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever seen something like that, and we also know that there's a lot of debate online about changing tyres under red flags. I think it was Imola. Hamilton benefited from changing his tyres under the red flag conditions, and now Verstappen.
And front wing, was it not?
Might have possibly been. But then Verstappen was allowed to change his tyres under red flag conditions in Saudi Arabia. That obviously was a huge benefit to Red Bull and Verstappen, because Mercedes give up track position and obviously pitted just before under the safety car, that point before the red flag was thrown out. So it's just sort of Red Bull finally got their chance to utilise the red flag rule. Just so happens to be in penultimate race of the season when there's a massive championship battle going on, and I think that's what's annoyed a lot of people. But Ryan, we've had this discussion before in the podcast. I just want to get your thoughts on it now, because I don't think teams should be allowed to change tyres under red flags unless it's a bit like changing parts, like for like parts. It's like changing tyres from qualifying, and anything in parc fermé basically. If it's a safety issue, if there's damage, then you can ask permission, but that has to be monitored. Do you think that it should be the same?
No, I think that with the parc fermé rules, I think we should be somewhat in honour of that. The same way if a team, it's after qualifying, the set you use to set your fastest time in Q2 is the set you use to race with. It obviously tyres is a different meaning, but I do feel that something similar to that should apply, even under a red flag condition. It's different if there wasn't a safety car literally right behind it and everybody gets that same opportunity. However, if you've just red flagged a race after a safety car, and teams are taking a gamble that they're not that nobody knows there's going to be a red flag. So the teams that have just gambled that, the race is going to continue, we're going to try and push this out and hope there's another safety car, and then a red flag comes out and they can immediately, just be like, oh, well, we took a gamble and I guess in some way it's paid off because we now get a second set. I think no, you should have to keep them same tyres on until the next opportunity, because these teams have taken a gamble with their strategy and they've risked losing track position, and then you've been handed a benefit. Now obviously we've seen it with Hamilton earlier in the season. So what I'm saying now applies to Hamilton in that race. It's not just going on to Max and Red Bull, because that's ultimately not fair. There was other teams also gained an advantage from not pitting and then pitting under the red flag, but obviously there was less teams that didn't pit than there was that did pit. So there wasn't too many gained that advantage. But I do feel that it depends, because if certain safety aspects of the car are either weakened or under threat, or there's certain parts that's going to be hanging off or close to hanging off, I do feel that those parts under, the FIA's, not jurisdiction, but under their close eye of them being like for like parts, those parts should be replaced just based on security and track safety grounds, so that we don't have parts flying off. Like we've seen with Sebastian Vettel's car, there was damage earlier on in the first red flag, between the first red flag and the second red flag, but they didn't actually really change anything to the car because they didn't obviously know how long they were going to have. But I do feel certain parts should have either been taken off his car at that point or definitely checked, because there was parts flying off even before Kimi Räikkönen bashed into the side of him in the middle of the race. So I do feel that under certain circumstances, parts should and could be changed under red flags. However, I do feel that if you've taken a gamble on strategy and then red flag gets handed out and you gain an advantage from that, I do feel that certain tyre rules, I think above everything else, should go into effect. That's really where I'm going with this.
Yeah, we know going into the race that the circuit itself, the Jeddah circuit, was under a lot of fire for potentially not being ready, and when the teams arrived during the week, the circuit itself was complete, but the surrounding the paddock, it wasn't fully finished, and we know it's going to be the second race of next season, so they have a bit of time to sort things out. But Ryan, what did you make of the circuit? Because it was an interesting circuit. The qualifying side of it I enjoyed. For a racing point of view, I don't think it was the best of circuits. Do you agree with that?
Qualifying, yeah, it's really interesting. Obviously, because there's no real competition, but at the same time, there's too many blind corners, and I do feel that possibly a slightly different system should be used. Whether we, okay, this is gonna go way too crazy, but I do feel that maybe we should take the full 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes in the first qualifying, yes.
18, 15, 12.
18, 15, 12. Because there's 20 cars, it's a narrow track with so many blind corners, 18. So that's 9 minutes. Split the pack up into two. Simple as that. So maybe Mercedes, Ferraris, Haas's, and Williams, and
one of each car.
Yeah, actually, no, that's a very good point, because then there's no chance of slipstreaming. So one of each car, actually, from each team. So the first 10 go in the first 9.5 minutes. They maybe get 2-3 runs out of that, and then the next half, they go, because it's such a narrow and tight circuit. We've seen there was many points. 10 drivers on a track that's that long with a minute 45 or was it a minute 40 or a minute 20? I'm confused. I think it was
between 1 minute 20, 1 minute 30.
Yeah, that's a big enough gap. We didn't actually see that big of a gap race-wise for once, which I think is because we had that many safety cars and red flags. But there'd be a big enough gap for 10 cars on the track, and who's to say all 10 go out at the one time? But it just means then there's less chance of an impact in qualifying. That could pretty much be unfair. If you're coming round on your flying lap, someone's dilly-dallying, as we've seen with Mazepin. We seen with Mazepin, and then Mazepin being affected by the same thing he does to other drivers, which is quite ironic and quite funny. But that's the scenario. No, you could be going on a high flying lap, you could come around a blind corner, and someone could just be a sitting duck, or there could be a line of traffic that your team hasn't pre-warned you about, and next thing, bang, into the back of someone. So one, you've destroyed your chance of qualifying and someone else's chance of qualifying. So I do feel that maybe slightly different tweaks to the system. As for the race, I didn't actually mind it too much. I do feel that we need a bit of a wider track. It was just a wee touch too narrow, because 3 cars into 2 into 1 don't work very well. I do like the banked corner that they have. That was a nice shot in camera to see too. Them just coming around. I like that. But aside from that, no, I like the fast speeds, high reaction time, that sort of circuit. It pleases me. It does please me. No, that's what I think about that track and the race.
Okay, I think it's time we move on to some predictions for the final time this season.
Yes.
Quite crazy to think that we've only got one more race left. It's going to be an exciting one, hopefully. Ryan, we'll start off this time for once. Pole position, I'm going to go Lewis Hamilton. I'm
actually going to break the rules and actually just go with the exact same thing as you here. Lewis Hamilton to take pole.
Should we do the thing that they tried, I think it was 2014, final race double points? Should we do that?
Oh, I think Craig would be mad at me if I did that and then destroyed our chances. Who cares?
Yes, final race of the season, let's go for it.
Double points, not that we ever get anything right anyway.
No, double points, I will get max 2. Race 1 then.
You work away because you're first.
I'm trying to think race 1. I'm going to... You see, if whoever we choose is probably going to be world champion. So it's more of a game of who are we predicting to be world champion, which I don't know. Because
unless
finish.
No, unless Hamilton finishes P9 and Max finishes P10 with the fastest lap, 2 points each, which means we're not biased, but but Max will still essentially win. Or does Lewis? No, it is Max, isn't it? Or is it Lewis? I can't mind. One of the two will take it.
Yeah. Oh, right. I'm gonna say Hamilton's gonna win the race because I feel like Hamilton's just in the form of his life at the moment. Mm-hmm. But I'm not convinced he'll win the championship. But he will if he wins the race. So I'm gonna say Hamilton will win and subsequently become world champion for the 8th time.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say Max, purely based on the fact that he's gonna be that aggressive, and he's gonna make sure that he gets that pole position this time. I think even though I said Lewis to get pole position, I think Max is gonna do it, but I think Lewis is actually probably gonna do it just because of how much he's used to that track in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
But I think, Max, he's gonna be that determined. This is my chance. This might be my best chance because who knows what's going to happen next year with the cars. I need to make the most of this. And I need to drive like this is my last race ever to win a championship. And I think he will. I think he will take it.
Podium then. I'll let you go first in this one.
We're going to see a divine Max on top. We're going to see right beside him a Lewis Hamilton. And then beside him, we're going to see... We're going to see I think we're going to see the McLaren of Lando Norris.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to see Max Verstappen, a deflated Max Verstappen, alongside for the final time probably in F1, a Hamilton Verstappen Bottas podium.
Yeah.
Final time. It's something we actually haven't spoke about, but I know we'll speak loads about it in the next race. Kimi Räikkönen, final race in Formula 1, which will be sad because since I started watching, Kimi Räikkönen has always been there. And then it's also Bottas's last race for Mercedes. He's obviously going Alfa Romeo. Giovinazzi's final race.
To Formula E, he goes.
He's going to Formula E.
He's going to the Hoover car races.
Yes. It's also Russell's final race for Williams. Obviously, it's been a sad week for them, and I suppose I should actually mention that we haven't had a podcast since. Obviously, it's terrible news the passing of Sir Frank Williams, legend of the sport. Obviously, the tribute's going around to him. I posted a tribute on the website as well. To him, but on the day he died, so it was obviously sad news, and obviously thoughts with Claire and the rest of his family as well. And it's nice to see Williams on an upward trajectory since the new owners took over, and I think Russell getting the promotion is going to help them long term, because it was always going to happen, and they're bringing in Alex Albon, who's a fantastic driver as well. So hopefully Williams can keep the upward trajectory going, because I think they have the potential to be back in the midfield, especially with these new regulations. But Ryan, we'll get on to the fastest lap, and I'm going to go Lewis Hamilton to win one with the fastest lap.
Nice. I think Valtteri Bottas is going to take it.
Okay. Final time he'll ever get one, do you think?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. And right, wild card. I'm going to go for 2. I'm going to say one agrees with my predictions, one goes the complete opposite. But I think my wild card is that the battle between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen will be completely clean. There'll be no major incidents worth talking about, and they'll not even make contact. And the excitement of potentially a lap after lap battle isn't going to be there, and one of them's just going to run off into the distance. I'll let you say your wild card before I say my second one.
Apart from the smart comment I made earlier about Lewis finishing 9th and Max 10th with the fastest lap, equaling them on a championship FIA deciding battle. Apart from that, I'm going to stick the one guy who's had probably the worst last race possible. Well, the second last race possible, Pierre Gasly. A favourite of us. You might actually be saying him next, I don't know that. But I'm going to stick him up on a P5 to finish it off on a quite close to a high.
Yeah, that's definitely reasonable. But my second prediction is that Verstappen will win the title, and then he'll just retire and just leave the sport. He'll just walk away. He'll do a Rosberg.
That would be stupid.
He has said he only cares about one title, so it wouldn't surprise me. And then hopefully Pierre Gasly would get that step up to Red Bull that he deserves again.
But when you've got one, wouldn't it be nice to have one for the other hand too? Hold 2 championships up.
Verstappen said he doesn't really care, so I think he'll not know until he gets his hand in the championship how much he wants another one. So that could be this season, it could be next season. It could never happen. We've had that prediction on the channel before. So yeah, what a race this is going to be. 1 o'clock, Abu Dhabi, at 1 o'clock UK time. Lewis Hamilton versus Max Verstappen, 0 points between them. Verstappen has the slight upper hand with more race wins. So it's basically whoever scores more points will be world champion. And Ryan, you said that could be 9th and 10th. It could be 10th and 11th. It could be 1st and 2nd. We don't know. But yeah, Ryan, I will put you on the spot. I know it's based on predictions, but do you think there'll be any contact, or do you think this championship will be decided based on where they finish or a collision?
I think we're going to see Christian Horner call up AlphaTauri and say, Yuki, been into Hamilton when he tried to pass you on when he lap you. That's not going to happen, but it would be funny and interesting to see what would happen there. Would there be a major investigation? Would we have Crashgate 2021? No. What'd you say again? I got confused.
Well, first of all, Christian Horner is actually British, so there's no need to be putting on an accent for him.
I was trying to do Franz Tost.
Okay.
Yuki, into the wall.
Yeah, just will it be decided based on track, a collision? Will they collide basically? Will there be a collision to decide the championship? Yes or no?
In conspiracy terms, yes. In reality, no. I think this is probably going to be the cleanest, close-knit racing we've seen in a while.
Yeah. There's so much on the line.
They're
What a
both
race.
too afraid to crash into each other.
Yeah. What a race this is going to be. It's a fitting end to the current hybrid era before we move into the new regulations, and it's just going to be an exciting weekend all around. Qualifying will be the first taste of who's got the upper hand, but then once Sunday comes around, history is going to be made either way. We'll have a brand new world champion, or we'll have an 8-time world champion, the most in the sport. It deserves. If this was a boxing match, this would definitely be a pay-per-view event. There's chat about it potentially being free to air at the moment, which is great. This, I think, is the biggest race for UK fans since Brazil 2008, where Hamilton won his first championship, because there's so much on the line. It's been so long since there's been this true championship battle. But I think that's where we're going to wrap up this podcast. Ryan, any final thoughts ahead of the final race of the season?
I think we are in for a treat, and as always, Mazepin no spin.
Okay, so that's the final Mazepin no spin of the season. But anyway, thank you to everyone for tuning in to this podcast. We have, I think, at least 2 more podcasts to come this season. Obviously, one from Abu Dhabi, and then we might have a couple come between now and the start of next season. And then who knows where we'll go from there. The podcast will have to be back. In which form, we haven't quite yet decided. But yeah, as I said, thank you all so much for listening, and we're obviously still doing the Apex Motorsport, the Apex Advent. Second year we've been doing this. Last year was a great success, and this year so far has been a success too. We've got content going on our YouTube channel, or across our socials and our website, and then plenty more to come next season. So yeah, thank you all so much for listening, and we hope you all join us for the final race of the season in Abu Dhabi. Goodbye.